Locked On Bears, Locked On Vikings, crossing over, first one of the year. Very excited. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Chicago Bears and Minnesota Vikings made similar changes to their rosters this offseason. Week one will be the first chance for both sides to really see, did their moves pay off?
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this crossover Thursday, Locked On Bears, Locked On Vikings podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Lorin Cox, host of Locked On Bears, alongside Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, bringing you our preview of Week One's Monday Night Football matchups. We get an extra day to consternate over this one, and hopefully we can get you ready with our crossover today. Our crossover Thursday is always presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Today, we're going to go through some of the biggest stories for each team entering week one, the matchups that will really decide this game, and what each team needs to do to win. Some keys to victory will wrap us up today. So, Luke, thanks for joining us on this crossover. And I imagine both of these teams have some similar storylines about the quarterback position and wanting to see more and the supporting cast around them.
Yeah, I mean, look, of course the Vikings want to see more. They didn't see anything from JJ McCarthy, but obviously there is, I mean, you tell me, like, there's like this expectation for Caleb Williams to like take this leap, be this sort of different guy than he was last year, and hopefully shed some of the bad habits that sort of held him back last year. And I guess the hope is that coaching is going to be like the key to unlocking that. It's different in Minnesota where like the coaching is here. We all love the coach. He just won Coach of the Year. The coaching has unlocked quarterbacks over and over and over again for 3 years. Surely this guy won't be different. But it's a matter of, does JJ McCarthy have the goods to not only, you know, win a couple games, but or win the game in front of him, but like be the guy? It's a much more broad question. I feel like with Caleb Williams, it's the outcomes have narrowed a little bit. You've seen a year. You've seen, I mean, this guy isn't JP Lossman, and he's not Patrick Mahomes yet. Like you've gotten some information, and now you're just trying to narrow down the outcomes. With JJ McCarthy, God knows anything could happen. We still don't know anything. All we've seen is a couple of drives in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, do you know zero? I mean, I know we don't know for certain whether he's going to be good or bad, but do you have like what's the confidence level? I imagine Vikings fans generally, right, are going to be confident in their quarterback, but I guess
well, we're all shell shocked, you know, like we all, like, everybody's like, this could be, we're all looking for the smoking gun that this is Christian Ponder again, so we can stop getting our hopes up. Like, that's the way Vikings fans work. We just are looking for an excuse to like not have the scary hope. But like, okay, it super depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I like JJ McCarthy before the draft. I've always liked him, and I think that he has shown that he can at least be like a middle tier quarterback in the NFL, which if you put that on this offense with this play caller and this talent, can generate a top 10 offense. I genuinely believe that he is capable of that. I have to hedge it because I haven't really seen the proof, but gut feeling, gun to my head, yeah, I buy it. I buy into it. If you ask the Vikings, they will give you full-throated support. They're going to say he's done everything. We're super excited. The knee injury is long gone. We love what he does. We love the way he approaches the game. We love the way that he's, you know, mentally kind of used his rehab year to get a great handle on the mental side of things. We love it. But if you ask somebody who's an Ohio State fan, they'll be like, yeah, that guy's just a handoff-atron. He sucks. Or if you ask somebody that, you know, that didn't like JJ McCarthy coming out, you'll hear all the same kind of tropes that have followed him since college, that he hasn't had an opportunity to really prove wrong yet. He can't throw the deep ball. You know, Jim Harbaugh didn't trust him at Michigan. You know, he doesn't have arm strength, which is patently false, but you'll still hear it a lot because people just see like that he misses some deep balls and think, oh, he must not be able to throw the ball far. But really the problem is that he zips it too much, that he tries to zip it. He doesn't ever put like air or touch under the passes. We saw a lot more of that this camp though. So that's going to be, if you want the concern is, will he be able to like layer a nice one? We saw a lot of those in shorts, but that's in shorts.
Yeah, we'll get to the Caleb Williams side of this in a second, but because I think the same question will apply to him. But
For
how much
sure.
do you think the training wheels are going to be on? I mean, it's week 1 for everybody, so presumably there's going to be a toned down aspect of the offense not being everything. But do you think they're going to try and essentially hide him is too strong a word, but are they just going to try and ask him to do as little as possible, or will they let him loose?
No, they'll let him. They let Nick Mullins throw 50 times. Like they had Josh Dobbs throw 50 times when he had got there like 4 days ago. Kevin O'Connell will never be a run first coach. It just is never going to be who he is. So I'm sorry to the Aaron Jones fantasy drafters. It's not a volume world. He's a good running back, but it's just not going to be a volume. It's going to the Vikings will have a high volume passing game for the entire time that Kevin O'Connell is here. He's a quarterback. He calls plays like he's a quarterback. He's a 7-on-7 coach. So I don't think that they're gonna have any training wheels on him. And I think if they did have to have training wheels, big training wheels on him, and it was all like a bunch of bubble screens and slants and stick, and like these basic concepts, I would be pretty concerned because he did have a year that was essentially only for learning the playbook. He better know it by now. And he by all reports, he knows it back to front, inside and out, forward and backwards. And that side of the game, knowing who's supposed to go where on what play, is not going to be where the concern is. It's going to be about how accurate he is and the throwing mechanics and the physical nature of throwing the football. Can you place the ball where you meant to place the ball? Has never been like a huge red flag for him, but this is the thing. And just the speed of the game too. Like he just hasn't seen the live bullets yet, that's will he be able to process in time, or is he gonna get panicky? How does that look when he gets panicky? He's not really known for panicking, but the NFL is different. This is a new thing. So I think if the Bears can get a bunch of pressure on him right away, that's going to be the way to do this. But the real storyline with JJ McCarthy is just like, can he do this? Can he put the ball where he's supposed to and drive a pretty tricked out car?
Yeah, I think there's some expectation that Dennis Allen is going to dial some things up, and you don't want to get all your stuff on tape right away in week 1, but that they want to try and confuse him a little bit with some different fronts and arrangements, perhaps out of necessity from some of the pass rush concerns. And we'll talk about that coming up here a little bit.
I do have questions about that, but I want to know about Caleb too. Like, what is the expectation that's going to be like? As somebody that I'm pretty familiar with what he did last year, because I was very fascinated with the Bears. So I watched probably more Bears tape than any other team but the Vikings. And so I have a sense for kind of what went right, what went wrong, and how much of that was on Shane Waldron and how much of that was on, the O-line that's been totally retooled and all that stuff. And how much of it was really on Caleb Williams, how many times he would screw up pre-snap or do something that was maybe not a good idea, how many times he would bail on clean pockets or turn something into a scramble drill that wasn't supposed to be a scramble drill, or hold the ball and take a sack after 9 seconds, which we saw that in overtime of the game at Soldier Field last year. What's different? What am I to expect? Like, is he going to come out and show? You've been looking at him all summer. What about last year is no longer true that I'm going to be like, oh, cool, he fixed that when I see him on TV?
Yeah. So that's still definitely an unanswered question as far as what's actually truly fixed. Like we've seen in the preseason clear examples in the second game against the Bills of like on time, in rhythm passing. And of course, it doesn't mean it's going to work exactly the same in the regular season, but like 3-step drop, hitch, throw on time with anticipation, break it on the out route, like making things that kind of structured for Caleb so that he doesn't have to break the rules all the time and kind of create his own offense for him on the fly. But I think as a result, it's going to look a little bit more and feel a little bit more like training wheels are on. Like not so much because it's going to be just like you said, like stick and bubble screens. But I think Ben Johnson says, shoot, we'd love to just run the ball 40 times and not have to throw very much and just make the life as easy on our quarterback.
Yeah, like he did in Detroit.
Yeah.
He just run over you and run for 250 yards and win the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Why ask him to do more than you need to? So I think there's a trust in the O-line and the running game, and then the pass catchers to be able to say, well, let's not put so much on Caleb's plate. And then if things do break down, we trust him to be the playmaker outside of the pocket and create something, but let's not ask him to do that every single time. And hopefully as a result, he doesn't hold on to the ball too long, and you sort of work through quicker releases to kind of take that habit away from him.
Yeah. And well, so if Dennis Allen's going to dial up some stuff, Brian Flores will dial up the most diabolical things. There is a direct relationship to how much he lines up in cover zero and how much he respects the quarterback. And he lined up in that cover zero look the most against the Bears. He was ready against the rookie that loves to panic when there's pressure. He was ready to bring it every single time. So we'll see if it's kind of the same thing. And the Brian Flores versus Ben Johnson matchup is fascinating. I've been fascinated with it all offseason, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. But I guess the question is, with Caleb Williams, at a certain point in every play, there comes the moment where you need to decide, am I sticking with this or am I binning it and turning it into a scramble drill? And that's the decision that I think Caleb Williams has made incorrectly a lot in his rookie year. Will he be able to stick with it, even if he's got to stand in there and make a throw, or even if he has to, if the internal clock is going off? Will he be able to execute things the way Ben Johnson wants him to? Because it sounds like in camp, it's been a little touch and go with that. So will he be able to do it? And especially, will he be able to do it under the immense kind of like compressed timelines that Brian Flores' blitz scheme kind of forces you into?
Yeah. And that question we thought was answered with a yes in the second preseason game against the Bills, and then looked more like a no in the third preseason game against the Chiefs. And so we're still trying to figure that out. But I think with a Ben Johnson playbook against Brian Flores, like to me, I feel like we're going to learn more about what Ben Johnson can do for this offense than Caleb Williams in a game like this, because you hired Ben Johnson to be the coach, to put Caleb in that position to say, hey, you've got an answer on every play, so just trust the answer and go for it. And presumably he's going to have to in a matchup like this. And if he doesn't, it's going to be really interesting to look back and say, okay, like what were there truly options there for him, or did he absolutely have to bail and make something else happen on that play? Because I think there's an expectation that Ben Johnson should give Caleb Williams all the answers to the test, and he just has to take them from his cheat sheet and write them in the correct spot on the paper, and should be able to not necessarily, put up 35 points and 400 yards, but be successful enough in the passing game for this offense to be able to succeed. That's going to come down to some of the key matchups in this game that will decide who wins and who doesn't. And we'll go through the one-on-ones that can really kind of change the outcome of this key divisional matchup on Monday Night Football next on Locked On Bears and Locked On Vikings crossover Thursday. This crossover Thursday, Locked On Bears and Locked On Vikings podcast is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, and so that makes it time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, both the Bears and Vikings had key figures deliver when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. So I think certainly for the Vikings, Kwesi, the general manager, delivered with Adam Thielen coming back in a trade to bolster that wide receiving core, bringing back the old familiar face with Jordan Addison suspended for the first few weeks of the season to give J.J. McCarthy one more weapon to begin this season. And for the Chicago Bears, left tackle Braxton Jones won his position battle. When the pressure was on, he came through with no hesitation. And if you've been watching week after week, you know that this is the kind of thing that we've been seeing build up for quite some time. And just like Braxton Jones or Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah delivered for the Bears and Vikings, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. All right, as we continue our crossover Thursday, Locked On Vikings, Locked On Bears podcast, Lorin Cox here from Locked On Bears alongside Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. I want to get into some of the matchups now that are going to be most critical in this game. And I just mentioned during the break, one of those names that stands out right away to me is Chicago Bears left tackle Braxton Jones. Starting week one is going to
bring that up.
The biggest question mark up front. Not because, all of a sudden, like we've seen Braxton Jones the last 3 or 4 seasons. Like we know kind of what he is and what he isn't. The real problem here for the Bears and why this competition has gone on so long is that Braxton Jones is still not 100% healthy. He suffered the ankle injury at the end of last season, had surgery, missed all of OTAs and mandatory minicamp, came back at the beginning of training camp, and has been kind of working through getting back to whatever full strength, full speed looks like from him. And they say he's getting closer. He's closer, but maybe not 100%, but still better than what they've got. But I worry about, in general, the Vikings pass rushers, but then you add in the blitzing from Brian Flores and how they're going to try and maybe attack where he's struggling with speed right now off the edge. That to me, whether it's Hargrave bumping outside, whether it's Jonathan Allen, whether it's Grenard or Andrew Van Ginkel or Dallas Turner's speed, I think they're going to throw a lot of different things at Braxton Jones in particular. And and Ben Johnson's going to leave some extra tight ends and running backs in to help chip.
Yeah. That's something that Brian Flores had a lot of success with last year in games where like you didn't necessarily want to send the blitz all day. You would still send pressure packages, and sometimes it would only end up with 4 guys rushing, but there'd be like sim pressures and, the confusion he always has. But the goal wouldn't be a free rusher. The goal would be just ensure Jonathan Grenard is one-on-one with their left tackle. If you had a left tackle that was struggling, Jonathan Grenard was going to be there all day. And basically every pass rush plan was going to ensure that he had a one-on-one there, maybe a stunt in the middle, maybe something else going on. But Jonathan Grenard one-on-one with your left tackle is happening. So if you don't like that guy, that's absolutely going to be a weakness that Brian Flores wants to go try to take advantage of. But it sounds to me too that like they weren't even sure they liked Braxton Jones as the starter, or was that just a health thing? The 4-way competition I heard so much about?
I mean, it was not painted that way, but it functioned that way. Like, I think ideally they maybe wanted to start rookie second-round pick Ozzie Trapillo, but he had some trouble kind of taking to left tackle, and so they didn't really have a better.
Yeah, starting that guy week 1 would have been crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, they thought he was pretty pro ready, but he had some trouble adapting moving from right to left, so they've put him back at right tackle, and I think long-term Darnell Wright might be the Bears left tackle next season, but that's a whole nother conversation for a future day. But for now, that
feels like something I kind of thought they were going to do this year, but that feels like a natural progression of things. Yeah.
They shut that down right after the draft. They said, no, we're not going to do it. And I'm like, all right, good luck with that.
Yeah. I think that would actually be a pretty good idea, but I want to like that is absolutely a mismatch. And by the way, Jonathan Grenard this camp has had a fire. He's the one that sort of coined the motto of offseason and camp for the Vikings, which is more is required, because they were so dissatisfied with how things ended last year that they got maybe a little complacent. Maybe they got a little bit high on their own supply, and then the wheels totally fell off. They get blown out by the Lions. They get blown out by the Rams. Speaking of that Lions blowout, Ben Johnson has had Brian Flores' number the entire time Brian Flores has been here. The Vikings have not beaten Ben Johnson yet. 4 games, 4-0. Ben Johnson has beaten Brian Flores, and Ben Johnson has been the one to really crack the code of Brian Flores' defense more than anybody else. McVay has had some success. Zach Taylor had some success. Matt LaFleur has been up and down about it, but Ben Johnson has been the one that like has the secret sauce. This is the matchup to me that I think defines so much of the NFC North, because how much of Ben Johnson's ability to beat Brian Flores, of course, what does that mean for the Bears? How much of the Lions' success in general was he responsible for? And therefore, how much of that is leaving Detroit and entering Chicago? What does that mean for the Vikings, who have a very specific bugaboo with this guy? This is the matchup that I think defines everything. And the real question is, Caleb Williams is not Jared Goff. What Ben Johnson could do with Jared Goff was essentially dare Flores to blitz all day long. They're actually in the Netflix quarterback show that followed Jared Goff. You saw them talk a lot about the matchup, and it followed Jared Goff's perspective more than Ben Johnson's. But it was Jared Goff basically saying, like, I want them to blitz. We love our blitz counters so much. I want them to blitz all day so that we can throw over the top of them. And that's exactly what they did. That's what they've done for 4 years now, or 4 games now. So can Ben Johnson do that same thing with Caleb Williams? Give him that out that is, no, you see the blitz, you get rid of it. And you have to sort of fight that instinct that is so ingrained, that is so much of Caleb Williams' identity, which is when you see pressure to go make a hero play. No, get rid of the ball, get your 3 yards, live to fight another day, and do your thing. Can he be that guy? And can that be an offense that also works? Because it's going to be different than what Ben Johnson was working with last year. So it's kind of a twofold question. Will Ben Johnson change what he does? And whatever he decides, will it work?
Yeah, so I think there's sort of two answers there. So yes, I mean, certainly for Vikings fans who haven't been following the Bears, like, this is not him picking up the Detroit Lions offense and setting it down in Chicago and trying to make Caleb Williams into Jared Goff, trying to make DJ Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown, trying to make Rome Odunze into Jameson Williams. Like, this is going to be a different offense. I mean, certainly similar concepts and preferences and things he likes to do, but like, this is not just going to be, hey, we're going to take the Lions game plan and apply it against Brian Flores here. Now, at the same time, he's got tendencies.
Yeah. That's like very relieving to me, because that Lions game plan is something Flores could never figure out. So if that's gone and we're doing a new version of it, sweet. We get to like re-roll it.
And I will say, like, I know Caleb Williams was not particularly successful against the Vikings, except for like the fourth quarter of that one game. But like generally, he seemed to be better at like knowing the difference between this is a blitz and I got to get rid of it versus like, oh, I'm under pressure, but I think I can extend this and delay a little bit. Like when there's an overload coming, he's generally pretty good at saying, oh, I can't.
Like I'm hot, get it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to get this out, as opposed to like, oh, it's a 4-man pressure and my offensive line to beat, but I know because there's only 4 guys here, I can probably outrun them for a little while.
But it's man coverage. I can make a play, that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And I will say one of the underrated storylines here between Ben Johnson and Brian Flores. Ben Johnson was on the Miami Dolphins until Brian Flores came, and Brian Flores did not retain him in Miami. And so,
yep, that is
maybe he likes sticking it to him a little bit in these kind of matchups here.
I think he likes the puzzle. You could tell that like he and Jared Goff really enjoyed that. Like, oh, these guys are weird, and we got to like figure it out. And that I think they kind of had some fun figuring out exactly how to do it. And because they were always successful, by that fourth time, by that matchup, that big one, regular season finale last year, this was the fourth time they had played Brian Flores, and every single time they had gotten him, late enough in the year that they could figure out what to do. That they had at least enough tape, even in week 5, they had enough tape to put that answer together. And so with a totally different style of quarterback, what does the answer become? I have not been able to stop thinking about it all off season. Like I'm not kidding. Like this has been the primary thing that I've been trying to figure out a way to like make content about and haven't been able, because it's just beyond me schematically. These guys are just both 2 brains that are like above what I'm capable of. And I can't make heads or tails of it, but I'm super excited to see exactly what they come up with.
Yeah, and how they take advantage of some of these matchups that we'll keep getting into some more of these one-on-ones as we look at the keys to victory for both sides as we continue this crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Vikings podcast. This crossover Thursday podcast is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Because as athletes focus on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitch Napa leather. And you can feel it in the movement when you're behind the wheel. The smooth handling, the intuitive controls, and the standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. So whether it's a quick drive to football practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Crossover Thursday is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets on top of the winnings from your $5 bet. So say you want to put a little money down on this Bears-Vikings Week 1 Monday night matchup, where the line right now on FanDuel is Vikings -1.5 on the road. The money line has minus money for both teams, and the over-under is set at 44.5. So a $5 bet on any of those, or coach of the year odds, division winning odds, MVP, you name it, got it all on FanDuel. If you get your bet right, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So as we wrap up our crossover Thursday, Locked On Vikings, Locked On Bears podcast, I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Bears or Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. It's time to get into some keys to victory. And Luke, we've talked around it a little bit here with obviously the Ben Johnson versus Brian Flores offense-defense matchup is going to be critical. But we haven't talked as much about Dennis Allen versus O'Connell, and the Bears, Dennis Allen being a defense that we're going to see a lot more man coverage than past Bears defense. Doesn't mean it's going to be all man coverage all the time, but corners on an island and getting a little bit more aggressive up front, I think is going to be part of the approach towards they want to stop Aaron Jones for sure and put as much pressure on JJ McCarthy to have to carry the load. And I think it's going to be more of an aggressive defensive game plan as a result. That with injuries at corner, I'm still a little bit hesitant how well that's going to go as far as totally shutting things down.
Yeah. So last time Kevin O'Connell found Dennis Allen, it was in 2023, and he stunted on him with Josh Dobbs, and TJ Hawkinson got like 3 touchdowns. So maybe this is a Hawkinson game, if you're gonna do a lot of like 1 double 18 kind of stuff, if that's gonna be the deal with Dennis Allen, if he's gonna try to man cover double Justin Jefferson, I think back to, and I know this was Eberflus and it was different, but last year the first game against in Soldier Field, the way that the Bears covered Justin Jefferson was ultimately, it was successful for most of the game, and then it became the reason they lost it. Where they basically did cover 3, but they locked off Justin Jefferson with Jalen Johnson. They just said, that's our matchup, and we're going to kind of play cover 3 outside of it. And it led to a spacing issue that led to like one of the biggest completions in the game. It was in overtime that like set up the game-winning field goal. And so I think about, trying ideas like that, where you're like, we're going to do zone. We're going to, we're going to try to play a normal defense, but we have one guy for Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be the dude. So one of the keys to me is, what can the Bears get out of Jalen Johnson? I know he's hurt. Is he going to play? Is he going to be at 100%? Is he going to be healthy enough for Dennis Allen to say, okay, you've got 18, good luck? And then who else is on the roster that's going to be able to man up with TJ Hawkinson, whatever you get out of Adam Thielen? We're not quite sure, right? Because he's only been in the building for like a week. And even somebody like Jalen Naylor, who is a lesser receiver, but he's very fast, so he's going to be able to take the top off of things. What are the matchups in that secondary that do that? Or is it going to be, we're just going to blitz you all day and kind of hope the rookie falls apart, or the second-year quarterback? I got to stop saying rookie.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is like either one of those strategies feels like it's going to be a really different looking Chicago Bears defense, right? I mean, like whether they're gonna try and just really lock down Justin Jefferson in that way, or what's that got to do? It's still going to be like a little bit of shell shock in terms of what we're used to from multiple previous defensive coaching schemes in Chicago being a little bit more zone heavy. And I see this as a really critical area, because certainly if Jalen Johnson doesn't play, then you're going to see Tyreek Stevenson start opposite of probably Nashawn Wright, who is a former 3rd-round pick for the Cowboys. The Bears signed this offseason.
Oh my, we cut him last year.
He had some rough moments in the preseason, but he
got traded for Andrew Booth and then didn't make the team. Wait, he's starting?
If Jalen Johnson doesn't go, Nashawn Wright. Okay. Because Terrell Smith ended up on injured reserve.
Okay, I misheard you. I was about to go crazy.
It's possible that the wrinkle that we haven't seen yet. I think at some point this season, Kyler Gordon will play outside cornerback in base, and then nickel then slot in nickel. And so we could see that as week 1. If Jalen Johnson's not out there, you just say, we just need better cornerbacks on the field. So I have no intel to say that's what they're going to do. I just think at some point this season, they'll find that to be probably their best approach there. And Kyler Gordon's one of the real like X factors in this game, because Dennis Allen is going to use him a little bit like Tyrann Mathieu. Like he's going to play the slot. He's going to rotate back to safety. He's going to be on the outside sometimes. He's going to be all over this Chicago Bears defense. And we have not seen that deployed yet. That's one of the big hidden secret weapons of this defense that it gets talked about, but haven't really seen it fully unveiled. And I don't think they're going to, put it all out there week 1 against the Vikings, but I think that's one of the ways they'll try and trip up JJ McCarthy, is by moving these guys around a little bit more, both up front, but then also Kyler Gordon specifically in the secondary, line up in all sorts of spots where you're like, where is number 6? We got to find him on the play, because he's good blitzing the quarterback. He's good against the run, and he's a pretty darn good coverage player. And I think he's supposed to be what can make up for some deficiencies where they've got injuries elsewhere.
It's almost like a Josh Metellus role, which is the Vikings have had that player that's that Swiss Army knife that does everything. He's a safety, listed as a safety, but he plays plenty of nickel, plays plenty of, he played a bunch of linebacker last year. Like he goes everywhere. And what Dennis Allen can do for the Bears it's like an underrated Bears storyline, because everyone is just wondering, how is this Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams thing going to work out? But I think up in the trenches, a key for the Bears is going to be, you got to find a way to stop Jonathan Grenard. He is going to be huge. And you have to do that without sacrificing your ability to handle Jonathan Allen on the inside, or Andrew Van Ginkel, or, just various blitz stuff. Blake Cashman's a great pass rusher as a linebacker. Like you have to stop Jonathan Grenard without sacrificing your ability to actually handle all that other stuff. Like there's not only a schematic challenge, there's that matchup challenge. And the Bears have to figure out a way to do it. And there's not really a way to do it that doesn't ask Caleb Williams to make the right decision at the right point in the play about how to deal with pressure. That to me is the biggest key to how well the Bears can move the ball. And on the Vikings side, I think it's the trenches again. It's, do they get Christian Darrisaw, who, by the way, Kevin O'Connell said there's a good possibility that he plays, but wouldn't 100% commit to it. He's been working back from the ACL, MCL tear he suffered last year. He practiced a lot in camp. I would be pretty surprised if they had him do that much work and then sat him for a real game. But, hey, he got a bunch of reps at practice today, and then they're going to see how he feels in the morning. So we'll see what that is, and you'll see the injury reports when they come out officially. But how do the Bears up front generate wins against a similarly retooled O-line? This is one of the similarities you and I talked about before the show. The Bears redid their whole interior. So did the Vikings. They have 3 completely new players on the interior, and then the 2 bookend tackles that they feel really, really, really good about. How do the Bears generate pressure against that? And can they do it often enough to get JJ McCarthy rattled in his first ever NFL start under the Monday night lights?
Yeah, I find myself more concerned about that side of the trenches than the other. Like, I'm more concerned about how the Bears are going to generate a pass rush than how they're going to account for Brian Flores' blitz, just because I think I trust the talent on offense a little bit more and Ben Johnson a little bit more to, like, they'll come up with some kind of solutions. But, like, defensive line, there's just not besides Montez Sweat, there's not an edge threat that I'm really confident in. And so we know Dennis Allen is going to put a lot of emphasis on winning on that interior. We've yet to see Grady Jarrett all preseason or training camp. So I think that they're kind of like resting their hopes on, like, he's got to be back to high level Grady Jarrett, and Javon Dexter's got to take another step. And they're going to be so deep on the interior that they can really push the pocket up the middle and then make Montez Sweat and Dio Dangbo's job easier. But I think they're going to need to blitz more. I think they're going to need to stunt more. I think you're going to see, boss fronts and other ways that they can kind of manipulate the opposing blocking scheme to try and just create better matchups and sim pressures here, because it's just sitting back and rushing 4 is not going to be something that seems very fruitful for this current Bears defensive line. Yeah.
And the thing is, then you need to hold up on the back end against a pretty talented group of pass catchers. The one thing about this, I was thinking about this earlier with Grady Jarrett, because he's such a, what are you going to get out of him? But sometimes the wily old guy, even though he's not physically the guy he was, 5 years ago, when he comes up against the rookie in his first start, can, like, kind of Mr. Miyagi it and kind of say, like, yeah, like, you could probably outrun me, outlift me, outjump me, but I got this trick you've never seen before because I've been in the NFL for like 12 years. And that could be what happens on that's something I'm going to keep an eye on with Donovan Jackson, left guard, first rounder, first NFL start. It could get a wily vet that kind of knows how to handle a dude that's still just trying to get used to the speed of the game. And that's another, like, matchup. I know we kind of done this whole thing in matchups, but the matchups are the key here.
Yeah, I think there's a hope for some, like, Akeem Hicks energy from Grady Jarrett to kind of
don't give me that name. He should have been a Viking someday. I wanted him to be an old, washed up Viking so bad. I wanted him to do what Jonathan Allen did so bad, because he, like, tweeted once that he liked the Vikings, like, in an offseason where he was maybe going to be a free agent. And I was like, please. Didn't happen.
Well, quickly, as we wrap up here, prediction for the game, what do you sort of see this one playing out?
I think so the FanDuel line has been 1.5 for a long time. Both money lines are minus odds, so it's a pretty even thing. But with the Vikings still favored on the road, I think that's appropriate. I think the 1.5 point line, it shouldn't be a 3-point or a 7-point line. They shouldn't be heavily favored. But I think leaning it a little bit toward the Vikings is appropriate, just with the levels of talent and the sort of comparison of what is new, what isn't, and how much we need to trust a coach and quarterback relationship, and, like, what's proven about Kevin O'Connell versus what isn't about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. I think that is appropriate. I hate doing the score predictions, so I will just say I think the 1.5 line will be close.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially week 1. Like, we don't know what either of these teams are going to be, and what we see in week 1 isn't usually representative of the rest of the year either. I find myself, this is neck and neck for me. I mean, if I had to put a number on it, something like 21-20 Vikings is kind of where I lean there. I just think
right around there, something like that.
Right around there, where it's like it's close, and and neither team clearly dominates the other, but I think Minnesota might just have a little bit more in the tank. It'll be a little bit more, and they've all had this coaching staff longer, right? They're a little bit more put together, even though it's a rookie a first time starting quarterback. Like, I think they'll be a little bit more of a well-oiled machine than the Bears are here. But Luke, you've been a well-oiled machine on Locked On Vikings. We're both in mid-season form for Crossover Thursday, so really want to appreciate you. Thank you for joining us and being a part of our Crossover Thursday. I hope everyone keeps making Locked On Bears or Locked On Vikings their first listen each and every day. Don't forget, if you're looking for a second listen, you can always check out Locked On NFL for more football talk, or you can check out the other Locked On podcast for this matchup and get more about your team's opponent each and every week. We'll be back tomorrow to finish up our weeks, and then we'll have Monday podcast for you as well before
for sure. Real quick, Bears fans, I need to plug my episode yesterday. My Wednesday episode is basically everything negative I could possibly think of about the Minnesota Vikings. You'll love it.
Well, that's as good of an endorsement as I had a pretty good negative Bears podcast on Monday as well. If you want to hear why things
I listened to that. It was everything, but yeah.
So in the meantime, enjoy your football Sundays and enjoy your football Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday coming up this week. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow.